Welcome to the Pulse Wave, brought to you by Metronome, where we build mission-critical tech that hardens our nation's land, sea, and skies, built for Earth, ready for orbit. All right, let's get to it. So here's the deal. Cleared recruiting is just recruiting, and recruiting is sales, and sales is brutal. You got to take the hits in sales, you have to keep knocking on doors, and you have to ignore endless ghosting. Because in sales, those rare wins remind you why you keep dialing at 9 p.m. and on weekends. Now let's imagine for a second that you shrink the entire talent pool to just 3% of all job seekers. That's security cleared professionals. About 4.2 million Americans have clearances today, but only about 2 million of them actually actively use it. So when you compare that against a civilian labor force of roughly 170 million people, that's barely 2% of people that you can even recruit. So you're not actually even fishing in a little pond. You're tapping into a thimble of top tier folks while your competition is fighting for the exact same needle in a haystack. It's the ultimate stress test. And to win, you got to be able to fight like Jake Paul, but you have to do it a lot smarter. You have to build personal bonds. You have to track kids' names, who's got families, what their quirks are, what their hobbies are, what kind of music they like, what movies they're going to go see, what vacations they want in this summer, what going to do for the rest of the year. And you have to check in. And you don't just check in when you have a job for them. You have to always be checking in, even when you have nothing to tell them. And you don't ghost them. You always have to close the loop. Because in cleared recruiting, those things are the line between somebody thinking of you and somebody who just took a job with another LinkedIn cleared recruiter. When that offer finally drops, it's not just commission, but it is commission. It's somebody who's now making more money because of that cleared recruiter. Somebody maybe is working closer to home, maybe they're working on cutting edge systems now, or maybe most importantly, because of the effort of that cleared recruiter, they are finally out from underneath that terrible boss they've been working for a year and a half. I started in cleared recruiting back in 2003. I knew absolutely nothing at all about this industry other than I had to make a bunch of cold calls late at night and that I wanted a bunch of commission. But I had a team and a mentor that kept teaching me to stay religious to the process. Keep dialing no matter what. Keep turning the cheek. Keep letting the water roll off your back like a duck. And really, almost most importantly, is to remain authentic and to keep caring. So today on the Pulse Wave, this team of some of the industry's best cleared recruiters are going to be commenting on stories about personal branding, how the right LinkedIn presence takes you from forgotten to first choice, what cleared recruiters are facing when they're fighting AI resumes and all these deepfakes, and why America is still fumbling veteran talent. And we're going to answer the ultimate question. Where the hell are all the missing socks? Let's get to it. So, today on the show, he's a grizzled, very, very, very old grandfather of cleared recruiting. He's a founder and president of Mount Indy. Welcome, Tommy Weinert.
Hello.
He has the shortest shorts in any office he walks through, and he has the mustache to back it up. Jackson Ayers, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
She is a cleared recruiting superstar with over 61,000 LinkedIn followers, and she's got more quality posts than the VFW. Welcome to the show, Stephanie Holman.
Hey, 62,000, but I'll let it go.
Ooh, you need a new picture and some new Mylar balloons to show that.
Thank you for having me.
Stephanie Holman, while I got you here, so those no news calls, when you have no feedback and you wish that you did, why are those important for your candidates, and how do those help your relationships with those candidates?
Yeah, I mean, you already touched on it in the intro. Keep caring. Be human, right? No update is still an update. People appreciate that. When you leave people waiting, that's where your mind can go in 100 million directions, and they start thinking like, okay, I'm out then, right? The team doesn't care, or some other thing. So just communicate.
That's right. End the story in our heads, because we can go anywhere with that. Tom, you made a post a couple of weeks ago about, you gave a talk and you were talking about to incentivize recruiters with maybe commission or something, and people thought that you were nuts. Why do you think that that's possibly a good tactic for recruiting teams to take?
Well, selfishly, that's where I came from. But you have to incentive. Look, you said it in the beginning. Like the cleared talent pool is 4.7 people. 3.5 of that are government employees enlisted. So like it's a 1.5 million contractors that are out there that are available for work. So it's even less. And it takes moving mountains and doing impossible things to do this. And you have to have a carrot at the end of the stick, which is a lot of times commission, bonus, or some other incentive. But that's the type of driver you need for your teams to really perform when it's impossible and make those calls on the weekend.
Jackson, when you see that one of the candidates you've been working with for a while took another job and you saw on LinkedIn, how does it make you feel?
I'm pretty excited for him. I mean, regardless of our relationship, my ultimate purpose is to find someone a job. And if it's unfortunately not me at the time, that, lays on me and my company, but they're in a job that hopefully provided something that was better than what they were doing. And all I can do is be happy for them, send them a congratulations message and say, hey, think of me in the future if you're ever looking for another job.
Man, that's a good recruiter right there. Let's go to our first segment. Brand like a boss.
In workshops as part of that. And I use the skills that I learned helping other people build their personal brand to start focusing what little extra time I did have on that piece. And it took 5 years. 5 years later, I would join LinkedIn as part of a cohort of new employees with a 0.04% acceptance rate.
Wow. That's
and I
crazy.
really credit that to, building my personal brand and a big part of that being my knowledge around LinkedIn and really being able to show up on the platform. So I personally think this personal branding and LinkedIn element is a big piece of the puzzle and so excited to share what I can to help others use these to find their dream job. I really say I love what I do for LinkedIn today.
So personal branding. All of you on this call right now, I think, put some good effort into their personal brands. I'm going to go to Jackson here. I challenged him a couple months ago. I don't remember how many folks how many followers or connection you had on LinkedIn to that point. And so you've made a lot of progress. I'm curious, how has your personal brand that you've been working on been helping your career just over the short amount of time that you've been really focusing on that?
Yeah, really, it's been like 2 months now that I kind of took that step to posting every day and engaging and kind of following a lot more people in the industry. And I want to give a big shout out to Stephanie for like really kickstarting that and just making that connection with Metronome. But I've just, the DMs and applications have, doubled and tripled since that in the 2 months, and the connections I've made have led to some really great candidates, even some candidates we've hired. And so, I'm very early on in this journey of starting my LinkedIn platform as a recruiter, but so far it's been very promising.
Yeah, it's, you look at it, you are someone who's looking for your next opportunity, however it might be, just like a job seeker is, so to speak, right? You're working on your personal brand. So Stephanie, when you're talking about a job seeker and a candidate, how did their personal brand and what they're putting forward online, LinkedIn, whatever it might be, how does that affect their opportunity to be viewed and find the job they're looking for?
Yeah, so when I'm looking at a profile, I'm looking to see what kind of experience they have, right? How long they've been doing it for, or do they have a clearance or not? I think one of the best advice or pieces of tips that I've gotten with your profile is does someone know within the first couple seconds of looking at your profile what you do and a little bit about how you do it? So that's the lens that I'm looking at these profiles on. What type of engineer am I looking at? How many years experience do they have? Do they have certifications listed? Are they cleared, right? What clearance level do they have?
Makes total sense. I appreciate that. Tom, you've been working on your personal brand for a while and you've got good experience in do it. I'm curious, when you're looking at candidates, is there something that's negative about their personal brand that they could fix? And when I say personal brand, we're all, for the most part, really looking on LinkedIn. How does that negatively affect their ability to get
noticed?
called back? Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
From a candidate perspective or recruiter perspective?
Candidate.
Yeah. So, you know, I've talked to a lot of people that love blank profiles. Recruiters that are like, oh, I love this blank profile because nobody else is reaching out to this person. So it's interesting. Like, if you're a full scope person, you're hiding, right? And I get that. But, you know, if you're like a system admin who's trying to, you know, get found, what I see the most is like a lot of people, they don't really put their job description on LinkedIn, or I should even say they put their job description, which is wrong. They don't actually put what they're doing. And I think that that is something that deters a lot of recruiters, is if they can't, I tell all candidates, recruiters will not read between the lines. Most recruiters, good recruiters will. But, you know, we're not technical. We can't, you know, some recruiters don't understand all the skill sets involved. So you have to hit people over the head with your experience. So it's abundantly clear what you're doing and if you're qualified for the work. So that's probably the biggest tip for candidates.
Great tip. Stephanie, do you have to have an ego of sorts to have a good personal brand on LinkedIn?
Where are we going with this, Virgil? Yes and no.
I'm going with this because, you know what, sometimes, I'm going to throw it out there, I struggle, I look at other posts that get a lot of run, and
Right.
internally I look at it and say, that feels a little self-gratuitous, but I also know you're trying to promote yourself. So sometimes I struggle with the things that I'm going to try to post or I don't post, and maybe it's holding me back because other people, I feel like, are putting things that perhaps I could take a stretch and also do. But maybe I'm
Right.
not being authentic, and we're going to get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I would really dive into your why. Why are you even posting? What are you here for, right? You have to have that internal conversation with yourself. And I think the ego really relates to the they and them. A lot of people have fear about posting online, and rightfully so. No one wants to be judged. I don't want someone commenting on my looks or my writing style or whatever. But like what I've found in this process of building up to over 60,000 over the last 3.5 years, they and them don't exist. Stephanie does. It matters what I think about myself. And I could go on and on about that, but that's really like the simplest way for me to kind of address that, you know, ego, fear, why piece.
That's interesting. I appreciate that. Tom, do you have something to add there?
I would just think one thing that we don't talk about with brand, and, you know, me saying whatever I say is, I can say whatever I want, right? Like I run the business, you know, Stephanie may or may not have constraints, you know, same thing with Jackson. So I will say that you do have to be careful. And Stephanie brought up a point a while ago that was really good, is that people are watching. Like, and I applaud Stephanie for this, because I know candidates have told her, like, look, I see you're connected to the mission. I see you know what you're talking about. I see that you handle yourself with pride and respect. And from a candidate standpoint, that's really important. In my standpoint, it's really important too, because clients are watching. And when I say shit about the acquisition process or the government or being frustrated, I've literally had people say, don't bite the hand that feeds you. And I'm like, oh, I have to think about that. Like, what am I saying and how is it being received? And I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that, but when I did have a client tell me that, it really kind of shook me to the core. I'm like, oh man, like, you could really easily misinterpret what I'm saying. So I think that that is also important when you're building. But that for recruiters looking to do this, it's like, look at people like Jackson and Stephanie and how they're posting and carrying themselves, and emulate that. That's all anyone does, is they emulate the success and they put their own authentic vibe on it.
I have to add this in. I'm so sorry, but like, you have to know your company's social media policy, right? I recruit for a government contracting company, very into AI, ML, that sort of stuff. I've read that social media policy up and down, left and right. I've also had conversations with the CEO directly, right? You need to know what your, I guess your parameters are, what you can post, what you can't. What I'm not going to do is misrepresent the company, you know, that our co-founders built from the ground up 26 years ago. No way would I do that. I'd risk losing my job. So you really need to get, you know, aligned with like what your company is comfortable with, and then just work within that framework.
Let me just tag on that one thing. work with your marketing department for you bigger companies. Like, work with marketing, because I guarantee there's going to be internal discussion about what the recruiters are doing, and some marketing company departments are not stoked on it. So like, work with them. They can help you. They can help elevate your brand. But as Stephanie said, like, you got to know the policies within your organization.
I agree with you. I'm going to check to see what Metronome's policies are. Jackson, I'm curious. Have you struggled with your posting? It's, what do I post today? Should I post this? Can I post that? Am I being authentic?
Yeah, I think that's the conversation I have with myself every day. I don't want to just post to post and to get that post out there and just say, okay, I did it today. I want to try to bring value to the candidates and other recruiters and other people watching me. So every day it is a conversation. I'm like, okay, what have I experienced ideally in the last week that I can reflect on here and hopefully shed some insight to everyone watching my profile. Absolutely. And there's been a couple of times I've sent you a post, as the owner of the president of a company, like, hey, are you cool with me posting this? Like, just want to double check. And then you'll give me great feedback on, hey, I love it, but let's maybe tweak it to sound more like this. So
appreciate that. One of you are going to answer this, whoever answers it first. What do you do to remind yourself of posts that you may or may not want to do in the future?
Okay. I can talk and talk and talk and talk. What do I do to remind myself? I am an active practitioner. You want to get better, you have to suck for a really long time. I'm sorry, maybe I should say that a little more tactfully and with more grace. But you just have to, you want to commit to this, you want to build something, then Jackson, I love it. Your goal is 1 post per day. See how it works. Your audience is going to tell you whether or not they like it, whether they find it of value. So me doing a TikTok dance or singing in my office, I've tried it, and guess what? It didn't work. They don't like that version of comedian Stephanie. It doesn't go over well with the cleared community. So hopefully that answers your question, Virgil.
It sure did. Second segment, Reckon with the Robots. AI can enable fake job applicants. How do recruiters protect themselves? While most job seekers are using AI for basic help like writing a cover letter, some are forging documents and creating fake resumes. Can you guys believe this? Companies are combating dangerous applications by fighting fire with fire. Candidates are using more AI to get through filters. Hiring managers are using more AI to fight those filters. High school and college kids are using it through the entire process, but usually it's typically harmless to help them scrape websites and find out what opportunities are out there. But it starts to become more of a problem when it's the end-all, be-all of the process, relying on it to fully write your cover letters, your resumes. They're not personalized. And then you move on, deepfake technology, which relies on AI, has gotten worse and more convincing. We've covered this on this show a couple times. Over half of all businesses in the US have been targets, and 43% of them have already fallen victim to attack. We fell victim to this recently. Luckily, it didn't cause a bunch of damage, and we sniffed it out. HR professionals might not think that this is their problem, but this is how criminals walk in the front door. AI can help us identify candidates' identity. It can help by doing live screen on their face, comparing it to their government database. Job seekers are wary of, this is interesting, job seekers are also wary of employers that rely on AI tools for the hiring process. 3 in 5 job hunters surveyed by Express Employment Professional and whatever said they would not consider applying to companies that rely on generative AI, and that's probably almost every company at this point. So why does it matter, right? I mean, this all matters, and we're in the thick of it right now. So I'm curious. Stephanie.
Oh boy. We're going to see more companies using AI to fight AI, right? So I'm thinking like screening verification documents to pick up whether or not a document that someone's produced is fake or not. Obviously, there's a lot of information out there about deep fakes. So if you're on video like this, like how do you tell, right? There might be a shadow or the eyes are kind of weird, eye contact, that sort of thing. And then just more like biometric checks, so like 2-step verifications.
Yeah, it's getting wild. So Jackson, so at Metronome, we've had a couple conversations about this. We've tightened up some of our processes during recruiting, during onboarding, during sitting down in the seat in the first day. How's it changed the way that your team's recruiting?
Yeah, just trying to be more aware of what we're looking at. I think sometimes the day gets busy, and I think we maybe could overlook some things that could be AI generated, and maybe we're just not catching it because we're flying all over the place. But being a little bit more diligent, especially on those first late screening calls, really identifying clearances and location. That's what we do on every single screening call. If the candidate proceeds to move forward, we're checking their clearance. And I think that's one of the biggest things, especially in the cleared space. Hopefully, to identify that you're talking to a real person. It's just not AI bot. So if you can't get past that, let me take that out. If they can get past that, then we might be screwed. I don't know where we go from there. But luckily for us, most of the cleared work, that's probably step one for us.
Tom, I know you love this subject.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like no one knows what they're talking about. Not us, but like these articles that come out and the sentiment, and I'm like, so express employment professionals, they do like admin and stuff, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not the cleared population. So one engineer may be like, dude, I would rather talk to a bot at 11 o'clock at night when I'm not at work than deal with some recruiter because I don't have social skills, whatever. Everyone is different. So will this be adopted eventually? Absolutely. I say it's the same thing with the internet when you didn't want to put your credit card online, and now you're like, how can I quicker connect my credit card to all of these apps so I can just click a button? So we will adopt it, but from our standpoint, literally like vetting people and making sure the people that show up for the interview are the same people that show up for work is going to be a huge issue this year. And we're seeing it happen, and we're seeing some of our clients be like, literally, we want you to take a picture of the person holding their ID before you submit them. So large corporations are very much worried about this, and there's going to be a lot of cracked eggs in this space for a while until we figure out how to really deal with it. But it comes down to the recruiters doing everything they can to ensure, like, hey, I'm going to vet this person out as best as I can, but we're only so smart.
Speak for yourself, Tom. So my brother, back in the old days, he was my first boss. We had to in-person meet every single person that we recruited before any of the process kept going, every one of them. That was a lot of people. We grew fast as a company. And then over time, that sort of process eroded, and then through COVID, I think it's eroded a lot. So when we had our discussion recently, we started talking, and there was part of the process we started fixing or changing, and then we said, all right, well, if it's going to be these kinds of people, then someone in that region needs to actually meet them in person. And I said, yeah, that sort of makes sense. But then I thought about it. I'm like, well, why are those people? What's so important about those people that we need to meet those people in person? Because anybody at any level could undermine, create espionage in the company. So anything specifically, I'm curious, Tom, that other than taking picture of, have you implemented any technology tool to help you do any of this yet?
I mean, we have really tried to strengthen our level of technical conversation, because what we're not seeing is people misrepresenting who they are. We see people misrepresenting their technical ability. And that may not be even out of malice. It may just be like AI helped them write their resume and all of a sudden they look like a rock star. So what we try to do is lean on ChatGPT to give us much stronger questions from a technical perspective. And we coach the team to listen for specific examples, what people actually have done, and not just rereading their job description. I think most recruiters in the cleared space have a pretty good BS detector, and it's leaning on that. And not to go on a rampage here, but also having those in-depth technical conversations that you have no idea what they're talking about. That's how recruiters grow, and that's how you learn. And last thing, sit in on interviews, listen to how the hiring team is talking to people, and echo those questions in your recruiter screens. I mean, it opens up conversations, and you can tell pretty quickly if somebody's out of their element.
So you're not necessarily just saying, okay, that sounds good. I guess you know what you're doing. We'll move them on. Next segment. Kowtowing to the pets? What? So I've got 2 golden retrievers, a Maine Coon, tuxedo cat, and I think we still have the gray one. He hasn't been back in a couple weeks. I also have 3 kids, and there's a lot of things that make their way through my house, right? But I don't know. So you also have to clean out a kitty litter pan, you know, and I mean, Stephanie, what do you think? Do you have dogs or cats in your house, and would you want Bruce watching movies with you? Fried green tomatoes?
Yeah, I'm going to start by saying I'm a huge animal lover. Love them. No, I don't want a cow in my house. You know, maybe a
Jackson.
baby cow.
Movie night?
I will movie night all night with you, Virgil.
Tom, do you have pets?
I have
Do
a
they run
dog.
your house?
Second-class citizen ever since we had a baby. Like, that dog is like, I feel so bad for it, but we love her to death.
Oh, poor guy. All right, we had to lighten it up a little bit. Moving on. Link or blink. This is going to be an interesting one. So I watched this part of it that I watched. You'll watch it, and then it just made me feel really awful inside.
The way I think about it is this. LinkedIn is essentially a place where you connect. And your LinkedIn profile is
Hold on.
original LinkedIn. How much
Sure.
better would your life be? Now, the good news is I'm going to show you exactly how you can do this by building your personal brand on LinkedIn. This is literally the video I wish someone gave me when I was starting from zero, and it would have saved me so much months of frustration and wasted effort trying to figure it out all by myself. And here's the best part. You don't even need to be creative. You don't need to be good at writing, and you don't even need to come up with your own original ideas. Honestly, you don't even need any experience, especially now that we are entering the era of AI. And you want to make sure you watch this video until the end, because LinkedIn right now is
Because he's going to tell you how to be inauthentic. So I didn't watch the rest of this, but what I did do for us is I pulled up, here, let me share this again before we start talking about this. So I pulled up, these are his ways of building your brand. Polish your profile like a landing page, sure. Steal like an artist with AI help. Copy top performers' posts. Post once a day. Rep your lifestyle, even if it's staged. Be a comment ninja. Set alerts for creators. Obviously, some of these things are things that you should do and make sense. Infiltrate DMs. So I'm going to go to you, Stephanie.
Oh boy.
This-
Okay. All
I
right.
feel like it's a battle between reach and authenticity.
Yeah, so right out of the gate, I'm not going to hate on Patrick, because you know what? Patrick is doing what 90% of people will not do. They will not get on camera and talk about what they do and how they do it, right? Just super quick, always follow the money. There are lots of people out there that they look like they look the part, they act the part, they sound the part, right? But sometimes they're trying to sell you something. So just do your due diligence there. High level, yeah, somebody goes to your profile, they should know what you do, how you do it, why you do it, right? There are pieces that you can engineer into the process. As far as stealing someone else's content style, it's not going to work long term. You got to find your voice, but part of finding your voice is tripping through that process. So last thing I'll say here on this piece, sorry to be long-winded here, but when 3.5 years ago when I started building my profile out, right? I saw an opportunity. There weren't a lot of cleared recruiters in this space. And what I kept seeing was these ginormous profiles of folks that have never been in recruiting, right? 25 years old, and good on them. They're getting out there and doing it. So I'm not going to be mad on them. I'm not going to hate on the Patricks out there. But what I'm going to do is channel that energy and try to get in the arena and spread, some actual good information here of what happens behind the scenes. Okay, I will shut up.
Don't ever shut up. Tom, he's sort of, maybe he could soften up his message, but stealing like an artist, right? I mean, artists all steal. I mean, that's what you do. You get inspiration from other people. Where do you start becoming inauthentic when you start pushing it a little bit here?
Well, you made an important distinction there, which I think that a lot of times that whole steal like an artist idea gets separated from, is it's be influenced, right? And influence really means understanding, studying, getting it, like, you know, and where stealing is just inauthentic. You know, I will say a lot of people focus on building an audience, and like Stephanie's audience is a great example. It is curated for the cleared space. I don't want business to business marketers in my audience. I don't want, like, you know, unrelated people in my audience. I want cleared people in my audience. And I think a lot of people worry about the numbers, and there's a theory called 1,000 true fans. And the whole idea is it's better to have 1,000 people that love every piece of content that you put out and buy every record you put out or whatever than have 100,000 people that can't even be bothered to, like, engage. So the quality of the network and audience is so important, and you have to be intentional in building it.
It reminds me of something we've taught my high school daughter, who has gone through what most high school girls go through, is getting your butt kicked by all the girls that used to be your friends, and then you find your new friend group. And my daughter's learned that her few really good friends now are much more serving to her than the 15 friends that used to call her friends that really weren't her friends. So it makes a lot of sense no matter what community you're trying to set yourself in. Jackson, new to the game, taking the world by storm. Your authenticity is your strength, your short shorts, your mustache, the way that you really do, you know, you feel what other people are feeling. So how are you getting so much traction so quickly, and how are you able to hone in on your authenticity?
You know, I would say if I started promoting the short shorts, I think maybe I could get to my goal a little bit faster, but, you know, can't share all the goods right away. But no, you know, I think I've been in recruiting for 3 years, and I decided over the last 2 months to take what I've learned over the last 3 years and actually publish it almost as an artist. And I think, you know, what I've learned working with Metronome over the time is just real authentic recruiting, being true to the candidate, being true to the process. And I think a lot of people have been burnt in this industry. And so when they see people like Stephanie or Tommy, and myself, and you, Virgil, I mean, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air. And they enjoy that. And I think that's kind of what has geared my traction over the last 2 months here on LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's an exciting space now. It's an exciting industry with, you know, I've mentioned it before, with GovTech sort of merging with the idea of Silicon Valley. There's a lot of adjacent touch points that get this industry becoming a lot more cool, and there's more ability for us to sort of spread your wings and promote your brand in even a different way as well. It's more, listen, I don't need anything to be acceptable, but some people do, and it's more acceptable to do that now, to be yourself a little bit more, and I think that's cool. Next segment, vets. Thank you, John. Vets, not vetoes. You know what, Stephanie, I just learned that you were a vet. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, the Army Medical Service Corps got me many, many moons ago.
Oh, it's amazing. Thank you. Veterans are underemployed because employers don't understand their skills. Veteran unemployment rates are down, but they're still 30% more likely to be underemployed. More than half veterans say they want a career that differs from the one they had in the military. Employer programs and civilian recruiters' perceptions often unintentionally funnel them to specific jobs and entry-level jobs. There's a disconnect between veteran skills and how they're perceived in the civilian job market. Some recruiters may not this is obviously very true. A lot of recruiters don't understand how to successfully engage this group. Non-veteran recruiters especially may not know how to match a veteran's past experience with new job openings. We think of the main driver as this misconception that military experience is less relevant in corporate environments. This disconnect can inadvertently slot vets who have experience leading hundreds of people in entry-level positions. Veterans can do more than one job. So something in my career that I've really tried hard to hone the skill is to see analogous skill sets in my candidates, regardless of if you're a vet or not. But in this specific instance, let's go to the vet herself. So what are sort of some of these blind spots that we have as recruiters when we're missing out on this massive pool of veterans?
Yeah, it just comes down to not understanding the veterans' experience, quite honestly, right? There might be acronyms on there we've never heard of, like MOS. I was a 70 Bravo. Does anybody know what that is? You probably don't, right? So for me, it's the military members being able to translate their skills. We recently had one of your recruiters, Ricky Daring, that was on Metro Star Civi's podcast. It's a veteran, transition podcast, and he said something I've never heard a guest say before that was so powerful, and I want to repeat it, but obviously give credit to where credit's due. But he said it is not the employer's job to understand your military experience, right? Sounds a little harsh, but what that to me means is it brings that ownership back to you, the service member, to be able to, number one, tell your story and then translate that on your resume. Because someone like Jackson, Tommy, myself, even as a veteran, I don't know all of the military, careers that people have done. I know a handful, but we all might not be able to understand that. So again, you take that ownership, you take that power back. So now you're able to tell that story.
That's a great point. We all have ownership of that's your personal brand, right? And we do have the responsibility to do that. And so, Tom, when you're engaging, I know that you're passionate about this. You've done a lot of work here. So when you're engaging veterans, how do you yourself make sure that you can get out of them what you need in order to really make sure if they're going to work out for some opportunities that you're looking at?
Yeah, I got a lot to say here. I just also want to say that the recent data suggests that veterans make, like on average, 3 to 5% less in government contracting than their counterparts that were not veterans, which I think is awful. And as an industry, that's industry-wide. We need to look at that. And the reason why that is not because of the companies, it's because of the government. The government doesn't recognize the military service as equivalent experience in labor categories. So that's very difficult, and that's something that as an industry and the government needs to look at. Hey, like if you want the veteran population to come in, not in junior labor categories, you have to look at their experience and make sure that it's equivalent. Some companies are better at doing this than others. Another thing is TAPS and the transition program does not prepare veterans the right way. And so whenever I speak to a veteran that's like, I'm 36 months out from transition, I'm like, bro, you are way too early. Like all you are gonna do is like kill your search and nobody's gonna wanna talk to you. So when I speak to that population, I do my best to coach them and say, here's how you translate your experience, and here's when you should start looking. There's no sense looking 18 months out because all you're gonna do is frustrate yourself. But how do I get the skill set out of it? I try to translate. I know most veterans, like they've done some sort of logistics or project management or team management. They've worked on C4ISR systems. So I look at that and try to really pull out from them what they've done and help them with their resumes. But as an industry, this is something that we really need to look at because there's no reason in government contracting that veterans should make 3 to 5% less than their non-veteran population. So I'm very passionate about that.
I didn't know that, and you're right, that is awful. It's cool, we have a good spectrum on here. So Jackson, like you said, you've been 3 years, and there are lots of acronyms. So how do you prepare yourself to be able to do what we're talking about here?
I just try to do my part, like Stephanie mentioned, like I'm not a veteran, nor do I come from any military understanding, like background. So like 3 years ago, like this was a brand new world for me. And so it's also, as a recruiter, you have to do your part and actually do the research and make sure you understand what some of these, things are and how they translate. So as a recruiter, I would just give tips in the sense of like, find questions that can help these veterans, like Tommy was saying, translate what they've done in their experience in the military over to real world. And then you also have to take that and kind of connect the dots together and make sure it fits. And Tommy made a great point, like transitioning military people. Like I've talked to so many like 12 months to 18 months out, and I'm like, look, man, I was like, GovCon doesn't, like, it's a now type of hiring board. Like we're looking for people now. Like I try to coach them, like, hey, when you're about like a month or 2-3 months out, that's when you really should really hit the ground running and start applying. So really, I would just say recruiters need to take a point to better understand it and connect with them.
It's such a great industry. I didn't, I know Tommy came from a completely different world. Jackson came from a completely, so did I. Stephanie, you had your reserve duty. Weren't you a teacher prior to this as well?
Yeah, school guidance counseling, K through 12, totally different.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I think it's such. This industry has changed a lot of people that I know. What it's done for every one of the people that I know that have stayed in, it has made them far more patriotic. It's made them people who care far more about seeing quality government, quality input and output of the government. And I think that's an amazing thing, regardless of all the bumps and bruises that have gone through this industry and some, I could point some negative things at it, but that's what it's done to everybody I know, regardless of where they stand, however you want to make them stand. So I'm super proud to be able to serve this, and the fact that veterans do have an opportunity to interface like you, Stephanie, and Tom, and Jackson, to get them in some good roles. But you know what else is our job here? Like, I said it a little bit earlier, you got to call people when you don't have news. The vast majority of all these people that you're ever going to talk to are never going to work in any of the jobs that you want them to work in. But what we can do is what we're doing here. You can educate. You can help those veterans understand how they can fix their resume. You can help the veterans understand how they can enunciate the skills that they have better to be able to tingle the toes of the next recruiter that they talk to. There's a lot of things that we can do to help not just veterans, but all the people that you're helping in the cleared space as a cleared recruiter. And I appreciate that. Last segment, sock it to them. Most important segment of the entire day.
You know how socks always disappear in the dryer? No matter how many times you look, one sock is always going to disappear in the dryer. Think about it this way. You need to kind of embrace the fact that not everything in life is going to match up perfectly. Sometimes that odd pair is really you starting a new trend.
I can't.
Imagine you're looking.
You know what else isn't always necessary in life is finding everything motivating. Stephanie, when you lose your sock, are you mad or are you motivated?
I'm motivated to go find my 6 and 8-year-old who have feet the same size as me to steal my socks back, because nobody warned me about that. They were like, Mom, these socks are great. Yeah, they're great because I bought them.
So funny. When I was younger, I had 4 siblings. I never had socks. And now that I'm a 49-year-old with my own socks, I still have one sock missing all the time. The lady's right, but I'm not happy about it. I don't get motivated. Jackson, what kind of mood does your missing sock put you in?
I just throw away the other sock. No, I'm just kidding. It is funny. Me and my fiance woke up this morning. She literally opened her sock drawer and she pulled out 3 socks and was like, I have 3 missing socks. She's like, where are they going? I was like, I don't know, babe. I was like, just put on, mismatched socks and just kick it, So I'm kind of lighthearted with it.
Tom, do you have his fiance's socks?
Yes, and I've got an analogy for this. There's a post in here somewhere, okay? In my 30s, early 30s, I figured out only
Was that
by
early 1900s?
early 1900s.
You can remember 35 years ago?
Yeah. I was like, I'm only going to buy one kind of socks, and that's all I'm going to buy. So if I ever lose one, I don't have to, look for the pair. However, I did this for years, and I wore shitty socks. And then one Christmas, my mother-in-law bought me Bonobos or whatever, like really nice socks. And now I have a drawer full of really nice socks, and I don't lose them. So I don't know what the message is there. It's like if you value what you have, but there's something there for sure.
Mitch Hedberg had this joke. He said, I got sick of losing all my pens, so I bought a $300 Mont Blanc pen. And I lost it.
Yeah.
All don't really understand what the punchline was there, but I thought it was funny. Stephanie, thanks for coming on. Jackson, you're awesome. Tommy, as usual, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for jumping on the Pulse Wave, and we'll see you next time.
Later.
You bet. Thanks again for the merch. Bye, guys.